mentioned?
that municipalities and local entities could apply for, that would help then you apply it to infrastructure, your roads and various things along those lines. But it was them coming together to, you know, find a funding source.
You can get back to us with information on that at the next meeting. How about that?
Yeah, I can do that.
I have something I want to say, but
Yes.
Councilor Teeter does first.
I just wanted to chime in. I believe that would be state transit would be pipelines transporting oil and gas.
No.
I'll bet you it is.
So I think that what they were alluding to last Monday was there was a
No, it was
Senate,
in our.
well, there was a Senate bill 24-184 last year that raised funds through fees on oil and gas production when open pit can be used for public transit. So I think that's what he's referring to in his, he being the governor in his speech.
And just going by when I was way back when I was on the transportation, when we went to DC, I go to a transportation meeting and it was all about transporting oil and gas.
Oh, yeah.
through pipelines.
Oh, yeah, no, this is actual transportation oriented roads, infrastructure, yeah.
I can see that.
And he also talked at CDOT, he also talked about working with RTD, you know, creating more oversight and to get more bus stations and rail lines and things along those lines.
Would it be possible to have a bill tracker that's in Excel spreadsheet style? That's something that we used to have, and we could keep track. You could go across the columns and see the status of the bill.
Let me see, I think,
John Bergelli did it in text format, but the previous legislative committees were done as Excel spreadsheets.
yeah, we can talk to Purple Label about that. The nice thing about the bill tracker that this is that this is a hyperlink. So if you want to actually read the bill, you can click on it, it takes you directly to the bill.
It was on there too. You could do that on a spreadsheet also.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I'll talk to them for sure.
Then you can see the names of the people easier. When it was introduced, CML then has its own column. Has this been recommended by CML? It got its own column. I can probably find an old one and share it with you. There might be one in the system, but it was just a way of
Yeah, no,
understanding where these
yeah, I
bills
can.
are, especially when you get up to 500 or 600 bills.
Right. Well, and in our bill tracker, we're like, again, we're not tracking every single bill that's been introduced by the legislature. It will only be things that are local government and business oriented.
Okay, but do keep in mind that the legislative committee is the policy
Right,
operation and that
Right.
we will be adding bills. It doesn't mean that they will be determining the bills. We as city council members may also become aware of a bill, at which point we can add a bill to be tracked and discussed also.
okay, yeah, I will take that back to Purple Label.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Sure. Hi. Or do we have any other questions? Oh,
Councilor Chacon, we have like a minute and a half.
I was just adding to the bills because we were talking about transit oriented communities bill. I think we kind of missed the conversation, but Lee already mentioned SB 24-184, which was the support surface transportation infrastructure development. It creates a dedicated funding source for transit and rail through Colorado, but there is another one that's transit oriented communities bill that limited the ability of cities to require minimum amounts of parking in development near bus and rail lines. So there might actually be some grants and funding that our cities can still apply to, because I know transportation bills kind of gone past for both clean transportation and then for these parking minimums that we could possibly apply to now as a city. So I would love to see if we could have a follow-up so that we can also know what our cities could be eligible for, because we are that transportation city.
right. Well, and I think are you referring to the bill last year that was Representative Rutinel and Senator Gonzalez that eliminated the parking requirements above and beyond what people want or need? Or Representative Woodrow and Heinrich, I never pronounce his name right, Heinrichsen, that make it easier to build housing supplies that inherently are more affordable, filling critical gaps in connection with the parking. So reducing the parking minimums so that more can be built. Is that what you're referring to?
Yes, it's the one with Senator Gonzalez though,
Yeah,
where it included 35 million to grants to improve infrastructure in transit areas and give cities leeway with their housing goals if they don't have enough water to support that development.
Thank you very much. This is important, but we now have the study session.
Yeah,
begin.
no, yeah, it's time. Councilmember Chacon, just really quick, if you want to email that to me, I will look into it.
Yep, I can.
Wonderful.
Thank
All right,
you.
thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much, Michelle. This concludes the Legislative Committee meeting of the City Council. Welcome to January 13th, 2025. This is a hybrid meeting of the City Council. Members of the public can view this meeting live on Channel 8, the city's website, and on YouTube. I'm Susan Noble, sitting in for Mayor Douglas, who is on his way back from a CML meeting that he attended on middle housing. Live Spanish translation services are being provided for tonight's council meeting by telephone. Please dial 720-386-9023 and use code 104091 star. The city clerk is the host of the Zoom meeting. Speakers will be able to unmute themselves when recognized. I will now call the study session to order. And first order of business is to invite Jeff Maxwell, Assistant City Manager, forward to give the presentation.
All right, good evening, Council. I'm joined tonight by Peter Labonte, now Director of HR. We are very excited to be bringing this item to you tonight. This is for providing eco passes for all of the 1,100 city employees that cover city. We're going to get into all the details in just a few minutes, but basically RTD provides eco pass services to businesses and government agencies so that their employees can have full access to all bus routes, all light rail, including routes to the airport. And they do it at a discounted price. So what would normally cost the employees $1,056 a year, the city has negotiated to pay for that service for $20 per year per employee. So the total cost of the city is $22,000, which is savings of just over $1.1 million for what the employees would have to pay for that. Lots of great benefits about this, lots of opportunities to attract staff from all across the Denver metro region. Eva will get into some more of the details around that, but just wanted to let you know this is a really exciting program at a really, really low cost for the city. And just to throw in there, you're all eligible for the eco passes as well. So I'll turn it over to Eva now. She can talk about some of those benefits.
Okay, getting started. So we have really exciting information on the alternative transportation's tax credit that we can take. We can use the cost of this program and we get 50% tax credit up to $125,000 a year. For this year, 26 and 27 is where it's slated to end at this point. So that's makes a huge benefit for the city as far as being able to fund this appropriately. And it is definitely a recruitment tool. We have employees who are really excited, current employees who are really excited about this program, even the ones not going to be based at Adams Tower. Just the fact that they can use mass transit to get to work is a very big incentive for people to consider coming here and to consider staying here. Certainly increases morale and productivity when they know that their employer is interested in helping them get to work and at a free cost to them. It does provide flexible enrollment options if we ever got to a point where this cost was a little bit too much for the city to bear solely. We can split it between an employee share with employer, but right now at $20 a pass, we can certainly fund that for our staff. And on the employee side, this is unlimited. They don't have to just use it for work during work hours. They can use it off hours, go downtown, go to Nuggets games, Broncos games, restaurants, and all over the Denver metro area at no cost to them, which is a huge benefit. And we have the opportunity to reduce all of the stress that we all know can happen when you're driving around the Denver metro area and driving to work. We have employees already sharing that they're really looking forward to the opportunity to, at no cost, be able to just jump on the RTD and ride it to work and back and not have to worry about it. It's a reliable form of transportation. People don't need to have to worry about how they're getting to work each day. So all of these things just add up to a huge benefit for our employees and for the community as well. We'll talk about in the next slide. So just the fact that we're encouraging all of our staff, all 1,100 of them, to ride RTD is a big benefit for the community because we are reducing air pollution, certainly getting people off the roads, saving on traffic congestion, and really saving our roads in general. We are looking at certainly parking concerns around Adams Tower. So this program allows people to ride the RTD right to their work site if they work there. And also with these passes, they can park for free at the RTD lot right across the street from the building. So that's a huge benefit for us as well as for our employees not having to worry about that. If they needed to drive to work, they can also park there with the Eagle Pass. So all of that solves a lot of our traffic problems. And certainly even in places like our recreation centers, if we can have employees utilize this service, then they're not taking spots that our community might take when they come to the recreation centers. And that's a benefit that Jeff will talk about in a moment about how we might implement some micro transit to make that more sustainable. Also, as we increase ridership in Commerce City, RTD will certainly take notice of that because increased ridership is how we get more bus lines, how we get more service to our community. There is a council that we will be joining as members where we can highlight those benefits and encourage them to add more buses or even new bus routes as our membership increases. This is a map that just shows the N-line connectivity from Commerce City all over the Denver metro area. This is just a way that we can show people to consider coming to our place to work and also come back to play and enjoy Commerce City life. So it's really increases the connectivity and it's free. And so we're really excited, like Jeff said, about this program.
So FlexRide. So RTD offers a service called FlexRide, which is basically microtransit. It's the way that they address first and final mile concerns. When you get off the bus, how do you get to your work? When you're trying to get from your home to the bus, how do you get there? Unfortunately, right now, FlexRide is not expanding. So it's not an option now, but we will be pursuing that as soon as they do expand it. In the meantime, we're looking at alternatives for microtransit. So what we'd like to do is provide service from the 72nd station, the N line, to all of our facilities, the Civic Center, Eagle Point, Bison Ridge, the MSC, the golf course, all of those. And we're looking to stand that up internally first for the first few months with our own staff and our own vans. And then we're at contracting out probably with VIA or some other service. We'll let them compete for that. But we think it's really important for our employees to be able to take the light rail to the N line, to the 72nd station, and then have a ride to their final destination, the workplaces in Commerce City. So that's how we'd like to start with microtransit. And then I just want to also add, that's what I just talked about here. I want to add a little bit about neighborhood EcoPass options. So RTD does offer an opportunity for neighborhoods to come together and get EcoPasses for all of their residents. So if you have an HOA, you can approach RTD and get EcoPass programs for everybody who lives in your HOA. You can do it for certain neighborhoods within the city that aren't in HOAs. It's not as cheap as what we've negotiated, $20 per person per year, but some cities like Boulder subsidize it. So they will pay, in Boulder, they pay 36% of the cost and the residents pay the remainder. So it may be something you all want to consider as a council. We just wanted to bring this to you today and ask if you'd like us to pursue that further and come back with some real numbers and some real options for where we can start looking at rolling out neighborhood eco passes throughout the city. And that is pretty much our presentation. We'd love to hear your feedback and answer any questions that you might have.
Anyone have questions? Councilmember Jacome.
Thank you. I would be interested to see how we could appeal to HOAs to offer neighborhood eco passes, just to see if there's a follow-up or how we can kind of start expanding microtransit, especially in the north, to connect to the south.
Yeah, so we'll go ahead and reach out to RTD. We'll try to get some pricing for that, and we'll see if there's different price tiers for different volume levels, but we'll bring that back to you as soon as we get that from RTD.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor Douglas.
Thank you, Jeff Maxwell, for the presentation. This is great. This is help reduce our carbon footprint. And is the city going to keep track of the employees who actually use it and put in like their starting point and destination to actually, maybe there could be a digital tracker to see who's all involved and how many miles are being saved. Is that part of the program?
It's not right now. RTD used to track it, but for privacy reasons, they don't track it to quite as much detail. But we will talk to them about how much we'd like to know about how much usage we're getting from it. How many people are actually using their passes, the percentage of the employees that are actually using them. And we're working with RTD right now to figure out how we can track all of those numbers. And we'll try to expand that as much as we can, but that's a great idea. We definitely want to understand how much our employees are using this benefit. And I know RTD has done that in the past, so we're going to work with them on trying getting that stood up for us as well.
And as the administrator of the program, we can say how many people are downloading the app. So that is something that we can get. And we could look into, as we are running microtransit, we could have the driver even record how many people they take back and forth.
Okay. Something the city council could purchase as well?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, you'll have access to scan the barcode and have your own EcoPass.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Dukes. Did you want to ask a question?
Yeah, I do. So with the EcoPass, thank you. This is a great opportunity for the community. I'm on board as well for the neighborhood EcoPass and see how we can subsidize it like Boulder or whatnot. The other thing I'm curious about is our boards and commissions, right? Is this something that we can offer boards and commission members at a reduced rate as well? That's the first question.
Sure, I don't see why we couldn't. Let me reach out to RTD, even I will, and we'll figure out if we can do that. I don't see why we couldn't do that.
Yeah, that'll be great.
I mean, you all are gonna get one, so.
Yeah, it would be great to have boards and commission if possible.
Yeah.
The other question I have, or just recommendation as you're rolling this out, it'll be great for your the employees that like post or share or how they're using it or jumping on.
Great idea. Yeah, it's great.
Create some momentum around it.
Yeah.
So that's it.
Perfect.
Mr. Maxwell, is it free? So you could unlimited rides for $20 a month,
$20 a year, and the city is paying.
A year?
$20 a year.
unlimited on light rail and everything.
Yes. Yep.
That's even better than for seniors.
Yeah, it's a good deal.
Do we as council members get to join also?
You all have free passes. We were gonna walk you through it right now, but logistically, we needed to wait a day, so.
Oh, and to the airport, because that's
Yes.
still an expensive one.
Yes.
I'll be darned.
Yeah.
We use it a lot, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good news.
We have one-page flyers in English and Spanish that we'll be distributing, and you'll have an email that comes to your email box. And you can just use your phone and scan it right in your phone and get set up.
Okay, sounds wonderful.
That should come to you tomorrow.
Mayor Douglas.
Yes, one more thing. What about our veterans? I know we do have passes for our veterans who are active in Carmen City. Could this be something we could share with our veterans?
Yeah, let me look into that as well. I'll need to find out how many people will be involved in the program, but I'll look into that and get back with you for sure.
Okay. And then I'm also on board with working with HOAs or even metro districts with the eco passes.
Great, perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Douglas.
Thank you. So a lot of our neighborhoods are not close to the inline at all.
Yeah.
And our bus service isn't the best through the neighborhoods, especially to the north.
Sure.
How, I'm looking at this flex ride thing, how would that work? And then you also mentioned like going to the rec centers and having the employees use the service to the rec center, but a lot of those people have to be there before 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And the service wouldn't help them at all because one of my other questions was if you knew the hours that the inline runs and if there's 24-hour bus service, I don't know if that exists. So
Yeah, so
those were the questions I had.
sure, and since FlexRide isn't an option, we're looking at our own microtransit, and just to let you know, we're undertaking a microtransit study for Commerce City right now, which will be completed probably this summer, which will help us look into expanding. What I was talking about was just to our facilities for employees first. But we want to expand microtransit so that neighborhoods can reach the end line, because you're right. It's a great resource. First and final mile are critical. If you can't get there and get home or get to your job, it's not really helpful. So we are doing a more broad-based microtransit study, and we will come back to you this summer with options for that as well. But for now, we wanted to get this started for the 1,100 employees so that they're not stranded at the 702nd station, but we are looking at all of the city. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I just want to address the problems before, getting into this too far and to make sure that it's, and then tracking, I think would be a really good idea so that we know how many people are using it. I mean, we can't even get people to use the bus for their kids, getting them to school.
Right.
Well, anytime people want to get in their car and they want to.
Yeah.
They want to do it from their car because it's much more convenient, so got to look at this as making it as convenient as possible, otherwise it's not gonna go anywhere.
Having a seat on the sub-regional service council will give us a voice to help advocate for more services to all reaches of Commerce City as far as RTD goes. So it probably won't happen overnight, but we'll have the ability to have that voice heard. So that I appreciate that comment. And I would love to run campaigns, challenges with our wellness program for our employees, a 30-day challenge. Every day you come to work in a month, ride RTD and see how it is. Once you develop that habit, it takes 30 days and it's hard to break because it's so convenient and so easy to use.
Right. And then maybe we could come up with some kind of incentive programs for people who are using it consistently.
Yeah.
So that it would motivate them to do that. And what was that called, the sub-regional?
It's a sub-regional service council.
Service
And
council.
it has public entities have a seat at the table where they can meet, I believe it's quarterly, where we can come and, express concerns, but also advocate for our own area and talk about, increased ridership. Could you, potentially look at adding bus lines, increasing the number of buses? So it's a huge opportunity for us to have our voice heard.
Yeah, one of the things I would love to see RTD do is like vans going through neighborhoods and I mean, they do it in the smaller towns. We just have to look at our neighborhoods as being a smaller town so that people are more apt to take advantage of the service. So thank you so much. Appreciate all the answers.
Councilmember Chacon.
I think it'd be helpful too to kind of see the intersections of like safer streets and trails so that we can encourage ridership. I've used the bus most of my life and even now. And it really is helpful to kind of know where those trails are to connect certain paths or when certain paths are blocked, especially here in Commerce City. They're not all safe streets to get to some of these stops. So just being mindful about maybe talking to RTD about how can we work with local parks, how can we work with safer streets for safer crosswalks and things too, so that we can really start boosting not just ridership, but possibly like multimodal. I used to always have a bike or a scooter, things like that. So I'd be curious if we could maybe be one of those cities that can help map what that looks like, or at least try to connect those connections.
Yeah, that's a really great idea. And we will do a lot of that as part of the microtransit study, but it's a great idea to partner with RTD. It's kind of the chicken and the egg, you know, you need the riders, but you can't get the riders until you have the buses. And adding 1,100 riders to their system here, we are pretty confident it's going to expand service for Commerce City.
Exactly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All righty, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. LeBlanc and Mr. Beck. And now Libby Charge, environmental planner, will give us the presentation for the oil and gas monthly update.
Hello, Council and Mayor Pro Tem. I'm here to just deliver a brief presentation with our monthly oil and gas updates. Oh, do I just do the cursor? Oh, Dylan.
Hit escape
Hit
and
escape.
do you have access to?
Oh, here we go.
There you go.
Yay. Okay. How do I explain?
Bottom.
Go up one, but. This.
I think so.
Okay.
Full screen mode at the bottom. There you go. Of course.
My apologies.
And IT support as well.
Thank you so much. Okay. So currently, we do not have any active oil and gas applications. But I did want to cover that we do have a couple of updates just from the ECMC, which is the state, just letting us know that there are some rigging operations, which are basically kind of preparatory things prior to plugging and abandoning a well site. And I'll show you where on the map these are going on, but we received 2 notices. The first one was for about a 5-day notice on December 20th. So a lot of this work has already occurred. And that was just to operate for five days, daytime hours. And it was a process to plug and abandon the well at TR Ranch, which is a planned unit development that's in the making here at the city. And it's between 104th and 120th. Very close to E470. And then at the same site, we received another notice that just stated that there would be a 3-day workover rig starting on January 8th. So that is also finished. But though they are required to provide us with these kinds of notices, and we can look a little bit more and do some more exploratory findings on what exactly is going on. But this is a site that is going to be developed into a greater PUD. And so, you know, as you can see, the oil and gas site that had a well is right in the middle of the site. So Plugging in abandonment is a good thing, especially with the new rules. Um,
Can I just add something real
Sure.
quick? So we did, when this came in, the city attorney's office and community development did look in to see whether there's anything that was triggered in our oil and gas regulations for a permit to be approved by the city, and there is not, because it's not expanding operations. It's the opposite of expanding operations. So just want you to know that that due diligence did take place between community development and CAO.
And then I know we are now, giving monthly Adams County updates as well on kind of surrounding oil and gas activity. And are checking in with Greg Dean on that. Oh, Councilwoman Chacon, you have a question?
I don't know if I should wait till the end, till you're done, but I can ask now.
I would wait. Can we wait until the end?
Yeah, I'll wait.
Okay. But we don't have any updates this month from Adams County. But we'll continue to check in with them on a monthly basis and make sure that that is included in these monthly updates. There were 5 exceedances that were reported with Suncor over the time period, the 1 month time period between mid-October to mid-November. I don't know if you want me to go into any depth about the exceedances, but that they were brief periods of time. One dealing with the flare, another one dealing with a fluid catalytic cracker unit. And then one dealing with tank number 58, and then a hydro desulfurization, a piece of equipment as well. And those are my updates for the month, for this month.
Thank you very much.
And I'm available for any questions.
All righty, Councilmember Chacon.
Thank you, Loves. I know it happened like literally the last day of 2024, but I know that the EPA objected to another air pollution permit for Suncor. Do you have any updates about that?
So we did check in with our Adams County environmental division, and they did supply us with that report, but we are still evaluating it and trying to understand it ourselves. So we can certainly get back with you about it, but we are aware of it.
Thank you. Yes, I would like to know about what's going on with that in the Suncor lawsuit as well. And then you said that they're giving, Adams County is giving regional updates as well. Does that include any new fracking permits or anything having to do with emergency climate preparedness? I just want to kind of literally read the room where, I mean, what's going on in LA, we do have similar issues about what could happen with fires. And I'm wondering if we should try to do, it's a study session, but I mean, we are an oil and gas space. We are surrounded by a lot of oil and gas spaces. There's a lot of fracking wells going in and around us where we do sit on pipelines. There's a level of, I feel, liability, especially with development and these types of climate impact fires, that I feel that we should start either being able to have a report to community or understand that there is certain threats that we need to prepare for when there's just not any type of programs if something happens here.
Yes, and I can do a very brief answer about that. We are part of a hazard mitigation plan update with Adams County. I believe our emergency management department is involved in that. E3 occasionally gets a request to review documents like that. But I don't have the latest update on that 5-year update that is mandatory for us to qualify for FEMA dollars and a variety of other federal emergency fund planning. But I can look into that further as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, guys. Appreciate that. Thank you, Councilmember, Mayor Pro Tem Mapple for taking over.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh. Let's remember, so this is Jeff.
Oh, did you? I'm sorry, don't want to leave prematurely.
Oh, thank you. What did you say that was with, I think you said it was with Adams County Hazard Wood?
Yeah, so my knowledge is from being a former Adams County employee that was involved in these things. But it's an emergency hazard mitigation plan. And it's a requirement to obtain FEMA help. And you need to update it every 5 years. And because Adams County is so vast, the towns of Bennett and Commerce City and the city of Commerce City decided to pay into that overall hazard mitigation plan because it's more affordable and because we're part of the greater community of Adams County. And so I know that we're undergoing an update with that.
Okay, yeah, I've been paying attention to the situation in California. And, with us also experiencing the same kind of thing with the Marshall Fire, and then our development here, what I'm seeing are homes that are really crammed together, one driveway, houses on top of each other, and with all of our storage tanks, the refinery, all of it that we have here, and the fact that we are experiencing rising temperatures. It's difficult for workers to be out in the environment working now because it's become dangerous because the temperatures are rising. And so I'm hearing mitigation, that means it's happened. And then you do something after the fact. I really think that we should start concentrating on some kind of prevention plan. And then with like the plugging and abandoning, that piece of land that you showed us, it's a PUD, it's probably going to be residential. So they're going to be building on top of that. And I know a lot of our development is on top of presently plugged and abandoned wells. And I don't know if people are aware of that fact. So, when you participate in something with the county, if you could encourage them to look into policies that will prevent, that would be great. But I think this is something that we're really going to have to look into and address sooner or later. We can't keep putting in the blindfolds and thinking that we can just keep doing what we're doing and there won't be consequences. And I was hoping that the transition would take place faster than it did. And I'm hoping that what's coming down the pike isn't going to put us in a very precarious situation. So I appreciate you coming in and doing this presentation, but I think it's something that our community members should be aware of and make sure that we do start looking at transitioning, even though I know there's going to be a big push for continued oil and gas use. It's just too bad what's going on in California, and it could happen here so easily. So thank you.
I can answer a couple of your statements, if that's okay.
Sure.
So with the hazard mitigation plan, it does look into emergency management and preparedness actions.
Oh, preparedness,
So,
okay.
and part of that is chemical and wildfire. And I know that those have become more pervasive as concerns with the consultants that run these kinds of plans and design them. So I know that that was touched on at the Adams County level 5 years ago, 4 to 5 years ago. And I'm sure that they'll be enhanced even more so based on the activities that have happened over the recent years. But I can check in a little bit more with Kirk Dominic about that because he is the one that is our point person for that hazard mitigation plan.
I think if the community were made aware of these kinds of things, that it would be helpful to them.
Yes, very much so. And then the second point is the TR Ranch PUD has a certain line in which the airport noise prevents residential from occurring. And so only
So
a
we have to
portion
set
of
that.
TR Ranch will have residential contained on it. For the most part, it's seen as more commercial, industrial in that greater area where the plugging and abandonment. But that is something that E3 has been very concerned about. We have asked a variety of our jurisdictions, and when we serve on an oil and gas roundtable with our local jurisdictions monthly, we've asked about what kinds of easements or tracks or other kind of language you can put into your land development code, into your subdivision code to prevent development from going on top or adjacent to plugged and abandoned well sites. Because there is some of that general concern that, if they do destabilize, then you'd have some development nearby and you're not really protecting the greater area around it. So that is something that we would love to seek council's direction more so about over time.
Mayor Pro Tem Noble?
Thank you very much. And thank you, council member, for bringing up the issues too. First of all, I'd like to thank the city and all of the landowners in Commerce City for their weed program, that keeps our vegetation low. It gives me a feeling of security to be able to look out over these big fields and know that the weeds are not too high, so that's not going to encourage the spread of fires, which is really great. And I'm sure many people know this, but I lost my home in a fire in Malibu in a canyon in 1993, I guess it was, one of 320 homes that were lost, which by comparison is like nothing today. I'm envisioning what are they going to do with the debris? Where do the kids go to school? Where do the people live? I mean, all these things that I understand about the problem are just rattling through my brain. And of course, I have friends who have been affected in California as well, in all parts of Southern California. Along those same lines, I hope that we will promote our WaterWise program. We have, there needs to be more promotion so that people know that they can take advantage of it, so the developers know that they can take advantage of it. Native plants have roots that grow far deeper into the soil. They search for the groundwater. So they're actually the better plants to have around if you want to abate fires and so forth. And lastly, this is for you, Mr. Tolbert. Is there any kind of resiliency discussion that's being built into the land development code changes? Or is that something that we need to talk with them about when they come to present to us?
They are, in fact, doing that. It may not be everything that you want, but when we meet later this month, I would suggest that you raise that we can have that part of the conversation.
That would be good. It would be good for them to pull out the items that are resilient. I mean, we did pass certain safety rules for new housing in Commerce City that require sprinklers in certain homes and distances between homes and that kind of thing, what kind of siding that you can have. So there's a lot that we have done here in Commerce City. That doesn't mean that catastrophe can't happen, but at least we've tried on that level. And, you know, we do have Philadelphia where a refinery exploded, and that was a whole different other story. But when it comes to vegetation, we won't have a problem with that. I don't think at this point. So thank you very much.
Councilmember Dukes.
Thank you. Thanks for the presentation. I guess my question, you kind of started down that direction in terms of what you need for council direction on. Are there, as we sit back and look at policy that we're working with, in your opinion and expertise, are there things that we need to look for or think about? Or are there other cities that we need to maybe look at in terms of things we could do differently?
You know, in terms of oil and gas, if you look to some of our sister city, you know, our cities in the nearby area that are models for a lot of our good examples for land development code. Adams County has about a 300-foot setback that is an easement where set away from the plugged and abandoned well site. So structures and roadways and things like that that are, you know, heavily trafficked or, you know, or could create a greater situational problem. They kind of have those protections. I believe Aurora, Colorado also has that. The towns of Erie and a variety of other jurisdictions that are seeing more oil and gas activities are putting in those kind of measures. And we do have a 50-foot structural setback from our plugged and abandoned oil and gas sites. And so I do look at the maps and I point that out in my reviews, but it's only structures. It's not the actual infrastructure. So it's not roadways, which could be of concern if you have to go back in and replug it. So I'm just saying, for example, because you're asking for direction, that is something that we would love to explore further.
And so what is it, or how can we learn more about those type of setbacks or examples of cities that you mentioned? Is there a place we can go look at them, or you could give examples, or what would you need to have that?
I could certainly come back to council at a given time. We could provide a quick, you know, 1 or 2 slides about it in our E3 quarterly updates, or, you know, however the direction
Yeah, I was
you
just gonna say, I
prefer.
mean, it would be pretty easy to pull that ordinance line. I mean, I just pulled over us, for example, so we could probably send that to the body via email, just as examples, and then you all can take that, decide if you want to actually discuss it in a formal setting or make a formal action. Then obviously that would require council agenda.
Thank you. That'll be helpful because I want to, you know, there's a study session, want to learn
Right.
more
Yeah.
about those issues. As far as the report from Suncor, you mentioned some exceedance and things of that nature. From your opinion or your experience, what, you know, we have these updates and they're like, what policy or conversations should we have with Suncor, or what do we do about that, or have conversations about that? What's the next steps and things like that? Or I guess what have you seen worked in terms of your experience and having honest conversations about, you know, we know there's exceedance. Now what?
So, so we in the E3 division are not public health officials. We do not have those professional credentials. And so we really look to Adams County, you know, previously looked to Tri-County Health to really provide us with that public health oversight. And then they also, you know, at their localized county level, will go to CDPHE And then CDPHE will look to these things with the EPA. So those are the agencies and kind of the domino effect at which they report.
Yeah.
We certainly are invited to the table to review information, which is what we did with Plant 2, with the EPA order, and those public hearings, and that's what the mayor did back on December 11th. So those are kind of the forums that we as E3 can kind of provide outside of more of these updates. We really look for guidance and that sort of feedback from our public health agencies.
So with these updates, and I think about takeaways for us as council, and if we're not going to testify and things of that nature, are there other things that we can, like, what do we do with this? Or what are the conversations we need to have? Or, I guess I'm trying to learn how to make this actionable, knowing that there's so many different layers that we don't oversee EPA, for example. But is there any recommendations or thoughts on how to use this data from our staff?
I'm gonna defer to Jim.
I think, it's intended to provide you an update and just background information. There's occasional times we'll have things in there that may very well be something that we'll want to give you and say, hey, we like testifying or things of that nature. But as a general rule, it's here to just give you an update, an overview of the big picture and what's going on. I mean, you've asked us to do several things as a result of this. One of them, we've established a relationship, as Libby talked about, with Adams County to find out what's going on in the county and around us so that we can keep you informed and we can be informed of that. You asked us Councilmember Kim asked last time that we reach out and see if we could get Suncor to meet with us, and we're having some conversation with them about that. We hadn't made any progress yet, but we're having that conversation. So anyway, things of that nature. But in general, this one is intended to be for information purposes unless there's something specific.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Councilmember Teeter.
On these oil wells, when they cap them, don't they also put concrete down in them and plug them?
Most definitely.
And I know the old days, they just capped them.
There were a variety of different methods,
Yes.
but now it's regulated by the state.
And so I would be interested to know with this new regulation, if there has ever been anybody harmed in any way by it, or if it's pretty much a safe practice that you don't have to worry about having all these setbacks and stuff from before we start passing laws to make it to where we can operate per se. Because I think it's pretty safe.
Yes.
But I could be wrong.
I will look into that.
Yeah.
I know in having some conversations with Extraction or Civitas, a number of, like maybe a year or more ago, that their recommended best practice is to replug a lot of these older sites if you are doing development, just for your own liability's sake. So, they themselves, the oil and gas individuals, were really advocating if it was anything prior to 2018 and you're developing a new development, that was their recommendation. And I don't know how that translates to the developers themselves, but it was an observation that they made to us in E3.
I think the biggest hazard in the past was that small animals and small kids actually fall on that in these wells.
I know that they now have, very, very obvious, you almost can't even tell that they're there.
Right.
And there's definitely not a hole. So, yes, but I will look into that.
The ones that were disposed of properly.
Joe, did you have something to say?
Yeah, I just wanted to share, the chief is listening and shared a message with me. He wanted you all to know that Kirk Dominic, our emergency manager, is working on the emergency operations plan. That is a long process, but he did say that that does include fire mitigation efforts throughout the city with other local, state, federal partners. So just wanted to make sure that I share that information.
Councilmember Tudor, you done?
No, but I can
Oh,
speak to
no,
that,
go ahead.
the fire mitigation thing.
I had it before.
I'm sorry, go
Okay.
ahead.
Councilmember Ford?
Yeah, when it comes to fire mitigation in our city, even though we have a robust, weed, program, there are parts of the older part of our community that has, I believe, significant risk, that we don't take into account because it's out of sight, out of mind. Both of our railroads run down through parts of our older part of our community. And those railroad right-of-ways that run in between houses, the weeds can be 6 to 8 feet tall. And the majority of our fire calls, are because a train sparked the fire and is burning the right-of-way behind the homes, which Rocky probably remembers greatly. And if you're a council member and you never went down the railroad tracks that parallel Highway 85 through and behind those houses to see the junk and the debris and the fire risk, it is astronomical. And as well as Highway 2, but I think the one that runs down through the older part of town along Highway 85 is worse. To get it cleaned up is extremely hard because it's the railroad and the railroad right of way. However, our residents in the older part of our community deserve to have those kind of programs to take care of their risk as well. And, I see even along Quebec, for years, I've always complained that the city lets the native grass get too high before we cut it down. It'll be 4 feet high along Quebec. And they say, well, we can't cut it down because we gotta wait until it seeds out. By the time it seeds out, it's extremely dry and it's across the front of all those homes. And we create our own fire risk as well. So if we're going to have a program that mitigates fire through removal of weeds and debris, we have to think about the older part of our community that deserves the same resources that we are putting everywhere else. And we have to have a partnership with both railroads to make sure that they are mitigating the fire risk along our residences' property lines. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Chacon?
I would love to piggyback off of that, honestly, because that is a huge concern. Even where I live, we're between two railroads. If there's a fire on one side and let's say everybody's rushing out, what do we do? And when it comes to the emergency hazard mitigation plan, does it also take into the impacts of railroads when there's railroads that are blocking certain exits and entrances, things like that? I am really concerned about as well too. So I just wanted to piggyback if there's a way to report how we can, one, disclose to the community safe routes in case of emergencies like fire, other things, if the rail yard or a railroad is blocked or there's other issues by the rail tracks. And then to kind of go to Councilmember Duke's point as well, I was wondering if we could reach out or if you can help us in knowing when there's like the AQCC hearings and when there's the ECMC hearings. There's been a few that have passed that does affect Commerce City. And I don't just mean Suncor because it's all emissions within this space. We are that disproportionately impacted community. And recently there was a hearing for midstream emissions and 50% of those emissions are issues here in Commerce City. That was last AQCC meeting. And I think the current one that's supposed to be this week is for greenhouse gas emissions from crude oil and natural gas facilities as well. So what type of protections are they passing in regulations? And then what can we, again, either be eligible for in grants or want more protective measures to address our cumulative impacts addressed on?
Yes, thank you. I will research a little bit more of that and get back with you, Councilwoman Chacon.
Mayor Pro Tem Melvin?
Yeah, I'll follow up on the railroad right-of-way also. And if someone could include that for the trip to DC when we have meetings, we'll be meeting with the Department of Transportation. So that is a perfect conversation to have with them. to see what it is that they can do federally and whether we have to deal directly with the railroad itself. And also that reminds me of all the county enclaves and weed abatement in the county areas as well need to be taken care of. And then back to the setback question, what were you referring to when you were talking about a 300-foot setback? What was that about?
So in the case of Adams County, they set aside tracks where it's kind of a 300 by 300 foot buffer that prevents development or infrastructure going over that 300 feet. So, I mean, in the case of the county, a case that I had formerly worked on was just in, it was an agricultural lot with a single family home on it. They had to measure off 300 feet from that oil and gas well before you could put a structure down or a roadway down.
I think that it would probably be worthwhile if we had a refresher. I'll bring this up as a study session refresher on our oil and gas regulations. We have some of the toughest around. They're far tougher than the county, far tougher than Erie, far tougher than Brookfield. We have 1,000-foot setback. So I hope that we're not confusing our setbacks here with anyone else, or that, because it's far more than 300 feet in Commerce City.
Well,
For a setback for a structure from an oil and gas. In fact, it is from fence to fence.
But Mayor Pro Tem, that's from the oil and gas rig itself. So the oil and gas site itself has really great buffer protections. This is from a plugged and abandoned well site. So it's something that has been cased in concrete.
Oh,
and
that's
it's
true. We only have
low
a
in the
50-foot
ground.
setback.
But
from-
there is, there's evidence that if you don't plug it correctly, methane and various other concerns, that do relate to fire and explosions and other, horrible things, could happen if they're not properly regulated, and the comfort level of a city to regulate that with the setbacks. But we do have a 50-foot setback from structures right now, and building and fire and E3 regulate that.
I think it's a nomenclature. When you say structure, it's not structure. It's from an abandoned site, 50 feet from an abandoned well. That's what our setback is.
So it's a radius.
Right.
Mhm.
But from an abandoned well, and you don't necessarily see it.
No.
Right, so you don't see the structure necessarily. It's just there. Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Douglas.
Thank you. So with the plugging and abandoning, I always go back to Dr. Anthony Ingraffia, who is actually the father of fracking out of Cornell University, worked for Schlumberger. And it's like the guy who invented the atomic bomb, having horrible regrets that came up with something like that. That is the feeling that Dr. Ingraffia has. And his concern is that no matter what, pipes will eventually leak. Cement disintegrates after so long. And so what we released is all of this methane coming out through leaks, not necessarily. So it's not the use of natural gas for energy that is so threatening as much as the production is threatening. And so just knowing that eventually future generations are going to have to deal with what we're doing now. And mostly for the sake of money. And so although it may seem safe now, it's not necessarily in the future. And this poor man has to live with death threats all the time. because he comes out and says, this is something that we should have never have done, but we're doing. And so just for everyone to keep that in mind, that this is something that should be on our radar, it should be on the forefront, and it's something that we shouldn't just shove under the rug. So I appreciate what you're doing.
Councilmember Teeter and Councilmember Ford.
I agree, but a pipe under pressure, eventually it's gonna leak. Pipe that's been plugged is not under pressure. And chance of it's leaking is,
It's the pipe that's going.
it's filled with concrete or plugging agent. There's no room in there for the gas to go anywhere. It's down
But
at the
it
level.
goes further than the cement ends, and eventually generations down the road, that cement is not gonna hold up.
You think
So
it's gonna evaporate or something?
now it disintegrates.
It's in an enclosed pipe and capped. It's not gonna disintegrate.
You can talk to the expert. He's been here at the different universities several times.
Talking common sense.
Thank you, Councilmember Teeter.
Yes.
Councilmember Ford.
Yeah, I want to add to my comments earlier about the railroad. That in the older portion of Commerce City, there are a lot of alleyways that go out of sight, out of mind, that are within our jurisdiction and our responsibility. Some of those alleyways are not open at either end, but through the middle of the block, there are sections of alleyway, and they create huge amounts of weeds that are unseen and unmaintained. And I think it would be in the city's best interest to get a good overview of what we have remaining for alleyway right-of-ways and alleyways that have been taken out of our right-of-way and deeded back over to the property owners. And they haven't moved their fences back, and they create a huge amount of fire tinder in those alleyways. And they're all through the Titchy neighborhood and all over the place. You just don't see them because people have moved their fences in, and then other people have not. So there's this unkept amount of land in the southern portion of our city that we don't have access to inspect it. Now with the ability to have drones and the city having those capabilities, we should be inspecting those right-of-ways that have created fuel sources that could burn many homes at one time because nobody is taking responsibility of maintaining those weeds and those alleyways. I think now that we have drone technology, we should be inspecting those and making sure that we're abating all of the fire concerns within city rights of way or on private property.
Thank you. All right. Thank you very much, Libby, for the presentation. I was listening on the way in, and I don't think we really give enough to our citizens as far as communication and then knowing, because we used to. It used to be a big topic when first got on council in 2011, when Councilmember Ford was the mayor. Right after gate, we went to someone's house, talked about the fracking that did occur off of Tower Road, where now it's property where down in Frank's property. So it's still the enclave. And they went out there to cap that so it can make it where it's usable land again to a certain extent. But yeah, we used to be in the forefront. We were going on that for our 8 years and then 2 years after that. So 10 years of talking about oil and gas. So to actually bring that back to people, let people know what we've done. And then also like the capping and all that too. So we really need to bring that back, and that can be part of our study session topics. So thank you very much.
We would be happy to be a part of that discussion. So
Appreciate it.
thank you very much. You'll have a great night.
See you too. Nice. All right. Okay, Sharp Austin, you're up.
Last topic for the evening, Dylan is going to bring up the study session agenda. We are going to be looking at meetings for April through June. While there are some that are already tentatively scheduled, there is a parking lot, if you will, of additional items that either staff has brought forward or city council has asked for. So we would like to take time with you to work through that schedule and get that populated. So Dylan is going to be the mastermind over there and populate those as we work through the schedule. So the items in red are already scheduled on the various agendas. And then the items above are items that we need to get added to the schedule.
Anywhere you can do a split screen.
Don't know, let me see.
Picture in a picture.
My answer to that would be flat out no. No. Okay. Be a way to three. Technically, yes, but it doesn't allow me to scroll very far. Okay, here we go. Does that work better?
Yes. If you just screen over and may put the video of the council chamber, I mean, our room at the bottom, can you shift that? If not, it's okay.
Maybe. Been so long since we've been in here.
Yeah, on the economic development incentive policy. Is there a way to include something else in that, which would be the business taxes, sales, use taxes? We voted on that in July of 2024. It was actually unanimous to get an update on the information and how we compare to other cities around us, whether we're more expensive for new business, for small business and so forth. I have provided that information to staff from the BREDAC meetings where that was initially given to us so that it could be updated. Where do we stand on that?
It was sent out to y'all this afternoon, probably about 4:30.
Okay, we need to have a discussion about it. It's not like a document. So I'd like to have it be part of economic development incentive policy because our incentives also have to do with our costs of doing business in Commerce City.
Absolutely.
Yes, we
Yeah.
can include that.
We can do
That's
that.
where I do.
Right, and I was busy because I was coming in for a meeting at 5 to actually look at my emails at 4:30,
Well, I
so
get it.
I'm glad to have it now. That's good.
Yeah, I would recommend so I like the idea and in the economic development incentive policy, if we move that to April 14th. I think it'd be great to have it earlier in the year, the full complete conversation about it. So we felt that's okay.
Mhm.
Especially since we're in the next month going out to ICSC.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, what about retail leakage dashboard? Oh, sorry, I jumped in. My apologies. Does that combine the three?
No, I wouldn't, or if we do the three, if it's a study, so April 14th could be in a whole economic development discussion. If it's okay if we move the PRG committee annual update, because I think we can move that update to the 28th unless there's something in ordinance or statute that needs to keep it there. But with that in mind, if we did that, then we'll have the leakage discussion, the economic development incentive, and then the joint study session. The land development code could be the third.
Oh,
Or that might be another one.
But what about the business and sales and use taxes and all that kind of stuff?
That would be part of the economic development.
Okay,
policy.
so make sure they're clear on
One
that.
presentation, yes.
Yeah.
All right.
The only question I have on this one is like the joint study session with the planning commission. That might be a whole study session itself.
Yeah.
You could give it enough time, but
I know it's estimated for an hour and a half, and I believe, Jim can correct me if I'm wrong, but aren't the drafters of the land development code flying in for this?
I think they're gonna be there for that one, yes.
Yeah.
I know they're coming for the one with council this month, and then I think they're coming back for that one.
Moving PRG is a good idea.
well, if they're coming in for that meeting, I would lean on making that whole meeting, just give them enough time to, or you don't think we need more time? That's enough? Okay.
It's not because we're doing the one in January that we've got several schedules, so I think the amount of time they're showing there is what they think is reasonable.
Okay. And then we have a longer meeting on economic development on the 14th.
What did you want to trade out PRG with on the 14th?
Was it the leakage?
Leakage dashboard?
Yeah, the leakage dashboard. Did that sound right?
Yeah, it's red.
Up above. Yeah.
That's April 14th, April 28th. PRG and the transportation master plan.
So for economic development, we'll do the BREDAC numbers update, we'll do the incentive policy, and we'll do the leakage all together.
So I like the idea of doing that. Is it a way that we can actually make it a real discussion? So not a present and we ask questions, but is there a way we can facilitate it? And maybe it's not tonight, finalize that, but as you're talking with the team and talking with city manager, right? How do we present some data and then be able to have like a dialogue at some point around it? That's
What's up?
on the economic development study session, basically on the 14th. Like, how do we make it interactive so we can wrestle with some of the questions? Or maybe you post questions for us to think about in policy. That would be helpful. to wrestle with.
Yeah, I mean, they have been working on an incentive policy, so certainly would want to be able to share with you what their thought process has been and perhaps if they have recommendations by that time. So that'd be information that they would want to present to you, but then certainly we'd be looking for your feedback about what the team has come up with.
And Garrett's really good about wanting to put discussion points in presentation, so we can make sure we're intentional about how we do that.
Thank you.
Since we're on the subject of economic development, also include maybe a map that shows the commercial and retail that's already been approved. Because we need to move the needle on that. If we know that those PUDs have already been approved, that would have better discussion of how we could actually add a incentive, maybe a greater incentive or so, but we need to know what we're working with without knowing, having a map to show exactly what's still there.
So you want a map of existing and approved commercially zoned land or available for it, either in PUDs or straight zone.
Right.
Okay.
All right. Because I know are we having a meeting? Did everybody get their survey to sign up to talk to the developers?
Yeah, I have an update about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then maybe we could have a map during that time. That would help discussion. Tim?
The grant update is coming after we go to Washington, DC. It seems that it would be helpful to have a grant update before we go to Washington, DC. So we know what to thank them for, we know what to encourage, et cetera. It doesn't serve a particularly, it would be far more useful before we go to DC than to come in April.
So this grants update is in addition to the monthly grant update that is provided on Jason's CM Weekly report. There is a grant update there that's included that provides cumulative monthly information. So this would be in addition to that update. And this was something that we thought we had heard when you were talking with Jason about his performance metrics. But a specific time had not been identified then. We can certainly take a look at the March study sessions and.
February, we leave
I'm
for.
sorry, yeah, and see if there is time to slot something in there.
We need to make a slot, I really do believe. We need to sound like we know what we're doing when we talk to these agencies.
Pretty sure February's all booked up with Cheryl, but I can double check.
Got IT issues?
We can certainly follow up on that and see if we cannot find an available space or move something around.
And then is CIRSA your ethics thing?
No, this is actually something different, and this is the first time that we've talked about it. I would recommend that we start doing an annual just refresher course for everyone, every council, beginning of every year. That subject matter can cover a number of different things. It can be ethics and governance. It can be liability. It can be personal liability, right? It can also be roles and responsibilities. If any of you have spent any time on CIRSA website, there's a host of training materials that are available. In meeting with the deputy city attorney and trying to map out what issues we've identified from our shop, this is something that we certainly recommend that every council does at the beginning of every year.
You know my schedule.
So
Yeah.
there is some, I think there's an opportunity for dialogue of what that would cover. And I'm envisioning that being a training session with myself and probably Sam White from CIRSA also coming in, and does this with municipalities all over the state.
Yeah, usually we have social training.
Right.
Every 2 years on election.
Right. Recognizing, there are some pressing issues that you all want to get to as it relates to development and preparation for the DC trip, et cetera. So it does not need to be in April. We just wanted to get it in the pipeline.
Good.
One more question then. North Range Substation, Buckley Park, which is what, I don't know exactly, Chambers Road, funding options discussion. That would seem to be a good February 24th discussion also before we go to DC. Since we're looking at funding options, because we need to be thinking while we're talking to these agencies. They
So-
usually list a lot of grant opportunities during the course of the meeting.
This was intended to provide you with some information. Staff has been doing some brainstorming on how we can identify funding for those three very large requests. We have put together a few options and wanted to be able to share those with you. If we add that and the grants to the 24th, then we are, I think we would probably do both of them that night.
Yeah, it looks
I
like
thought
both
the
would
time-
fit.
Yeah, I thought the time said later, the last time you were on there.
Yeah.
That'll put you at about 9:20 for February 24th.
That's our dues.
Sure, thanks for problem solving that. And I guess my question is, we can do it that night, but will that do you justice in terms of the work that needs to be discussed? Is that enough time to dive into that, those options? I just don't want to feel rushed.
I think we can do that based on the conversations we've had. We feel like we've come up with a good approach. Certainly that is your decision, but we can certainly provide the information that we've come up with to date and then, determine if that, is a path we want to continue on. And if not, then we go, back to the drawing board, and that could include conversations in DC, like Mayor Pro Tem mentioned.
Okay. I think that's a good idea.
Thank you, I appreciate that though.
Any other council members? Councilmember Teeter, you have any suggestions? Councilmember Douglas?
So right now, we're just coming up with this schedule for.
We're trying to slot the items on the top into that 3-month time period.
Okay. So now's not the time to bring up something that you'd like to see come to a study session.
Well, I certainly have been taking notes throughout the night of items that have been mentioned, so we certainly can talk about that and determine where it best fits.
I'd like to see an actual study session on homelessness, where maybe we interact with our residents who are having to be impacted by it, to see if there's some kind of dialogue that we could get going so that we could come up with some solutions as far as making them feel like we're addressing the issue. Does that, I mean, I know we can't solve it, but we've had too many people come to the podium talking about it, that I think somehow that we should let our constituents know that we're trying to come up with some kind of solutions to.
We actually have on the 27th, I think it is, an update about how to deal with homelessness in the parks, talking about curfews and a couple of other ideas that we're going to be presenting as a first step with that y'all had asked for. Something specific that's there that we can talk
I
about.
know one of our constituents who's come to the podium several times, requested that we go on a tour of the city to actually see for ourselves what's going on, and you know, just brainstorming on how we could come up with better solutions on how to address the situation. And then the mayor and I actually went to, and Councilmember Teeter was there as well. It was at 180 Church where they do the monthly lunch.
Feed the homeless.
Yeah, well, yeah. And so we got to talk to some people who were homeless that day. And so, I mean, I just feel it's something that we shouldn't be just saying, okay, well, we're gonna talk about the parks, and I think a deeper dive needs to happen. That's what I'm saying.
Are you amenable to getting through the study session on the 27th to hear that information?
I think
that is
so,
provided?
as long as our community members know that it's on our radar and it's something that we are going to look at, and they know it's coming. It's when they don't know anything and they think that we're not doing anything. You know what I mean? Okay. So yeah, it is, as long as we got it so that it's scheduled for some time that we are going to do it. That would be helpful.
Okay, you're done?
Yeah.
Okay, Councilmember Chacon?
Thank you, Councilmember Douglas, for bringing that up. Honestly, I'm gonna be going, surprisingly, it's still on for LA, but I'm gonna be going for an elected official national gathering for houseless relatives in the first week of February, and I can bring back what information I find and what networking there is there for resources. But I would also like to see a study session. Our houseless relatives can't just go away. And right now we're about to hit a cold snap. I believe we don't even open our warming stations until it's 10 below. That's, I mean, technically freezing is anything below 30. So how are we looking at also just alleviating suffering, honestly? Or is there a way to have mobile showers? Is there a way to have mobile laundromats? Things that we could help with the immediate needs to keep our city sanitary, frankly. But then, yes, it's there ultimately an investment, and there is no shelters anywhere. I don't even know where to refer often, even domestic violence victims. So, and I'm pretty well connected with a lot of victim advocates, and it's getting worse. So how can cities and local municipalities, I mean, again, address the elephant in the room that there needs to be more shelters for the houseless issues that we have? Colorado gets incredibly cold, and then all of the sanitary needs that we really need to transformatively look at the houseless issue about. I would like to have a study session about as well, to really look at other ways to just alleviate suffering.
Did you want to address that, Jim?
Yeah, just a couple of things. One is, Cheryl's going to update you about warming centers that we're going to open this weekend. We've already made the decision based on the forecast. Our policy is below 10 degrees, not negative 10. So, and we're pretty much in lockstep with everybody around us with our policy for temperature and snow. There was something else you said that I went brain dead, that you mentioned.
Talked about like, mobile.
Oh, thank you. And with some of the ARPA funding that y'all provided, we are purchasing mobile shower facility that we'll be able to have it moved around town. We also authorized us to purchase another vehicle, and we bought a truck that can tow the shower to different places. So we'll be able to provide that. We used to get one out of Denver, but the folks that were doing it went away, and so it's not there. But that's something that we're working to do, to be able to take to various places in the city and have it available for folks.
Councilmember Tippy, do you have your hand up?
I was just gonna bring up how cold it's gotta be before we let the homeless in.
All right. So Mayor Pro Tem, then Councilmember Briggs.
ICSC prep discussion. So the ICSC conference is when, May 20th?
May 18th, yeah.
May 18th, so seems like that one should go May 12th. Unless you want to call that economic development. Kind of falls under, it certainly falls under economic development.
I think the intent was to have it a little closer to the trip.
All right, okay then.
Right.
Never you mind. Then I wanted to have a conversation too about the efficiency of our meetings. And that is in terms of timing. So we have 2 actual city council meetings, January, February, 1 each month, and the rest are study sessions because we meet on Mondays, which fall on federal holidays. Westminster just changed their meetings to Tuesdays. Brighton is Tuesday, Broomfield is Tuesday. I would just like to have a study session discussion about it, about the alternatives, what we could do. Whether it's moving our meeting to Tuesday, whether it's replacing the study session the next week because we lost a council meeting, whatever the case might be, however we could conduct business more efficiently in terms of use of the month for a study session topic.
So you would like that added into the April to June timeframe?
You can put it where Dylan was putting stuff at the bottom. I'm not suggesting it has to come
Okay.
April, February, March, April, or April. Where is that? June, all the way to June?
Yeah, Q2 is all the way through June 23rd.
Okay. All right. How about May then?
Yeah, one study session in May, which is May 12th, because the 26th is Memorial Day. Funny enough.
I'm testing the new system and I can't hear you, Dylan.
There's only one study session in May
There you go, proving my point.
because Memorial Day, so. Would you like me to add it, Cheryl?
Yes.
All right.
Let's see, council meeting date.
Because of course there's ramifications, we have commission meetings on Tuesdays, so we'd have to move those. Then in the article I was reading about Westminster, they were taking all of that into account. They had also stopped all of their Zoom opportunities if you're for community and for council members. That it all had to be in person. Which seemed a little strong to me, but it's worth discussing. Unless you're away.
Is that it, Mayor Pro Tem,
That's it.
Councilmember Dukes?
Thank you, Mayor. I wanna, I guess a process question right now. There's a lot of things on here that we voted on to have study sessions for. And I would love us to keep that process. If we want a study session, let's vote on it to put it on the study session agenda. Because I worry about us throwing things on here and bumping things we already voted for. Like the natural medicine study session, that was a vote to put it on here, the safety action. And I worry about the staff needing to have to jump into a bunch of things that we might be quiet here, but we may not all be on the same page. So a vote will be helpful and when we do our,
Right.
not tonight, I'm talking about
But we
during our
have-
regular study sessions.
We still have February and March.
No,
That you can see those items right there?
no, I understand how to read, I do,
No, no.
Mayor, I do understand. I understand how to read that part of it, but I'm saying now we add a couple other items.
Right, I know what you're saying. Do those later, right?
Yeah.
So let's just stick with the, right now, stick with the 4 items that are in white. And if you guys could plug those in.
Yeah.
Another council member brought up a different topic.
Yeah, no, I'm not.
Which is why I did.
Right, no,
But
that's
I
not a
will
problem.
certainly make it a motion.
Oh, no,
for
it's not a
discussion
problem.
Coming forward.
Let's just work on the ones that are in white and then we can add the ones in.
Yeah, and that's
extra.
why I asked if it was appropriate for me to bring that in,
Yes.
so.
And no one's at fault.
Oh, yeah,
I just
no.
bring it up as a norming mechanism as we all work together, like.
Yeah, it's supposed to be formalities.
Right, I was
It should
trying to
be just to work
understand
on the
the
white ones and
process
then
here tonight.
We can add some more.
Thank you.
ones on there.
We used to do this a little more loosely, though. We did bring up topics during the course of the meeting. If anybody objected, you say, does anybody have an objection to this for a study session? That solves the problem. Do you have an objection to discussing meeting dates as a study session item?
Well, and that's how you used to do it, which I respect. But as we work together as this council, we haven't discussed that.
Well,
And so
no,
we have different
Right.
interpretations of how we do it.
but on tonight though.
Yeah.
It's topics, priorities. And so there's nothing wrong with adding some on, but let's take care of these ones in the white.
Yeah, that's how, I guess I'm just naming that statement, because that's how I
Right.
would prefer it. as
Councilmember Teeter?
Well, I wanted to tone in on Mayor Pro Tem's thought there on, there's no private union that I know of that has more than 5 holidays. But all the public ones, the cities and the states, governments, we got so many holidays that we can't do our business. But we're gonna have to look at a charter change, but we do need to have a study session to do something, whether it's start holding when a holiday comes and rather than cancel the meeting, we need to maybe move it to Tuesday. Or,
Some discussion
we
like
need
that.
to have some discussion on that. And because, we can't keep up with business because we're on holiday. Too many holidays.
Well, it seems like that because we just had 2 in a row.
Well, I'll guarantee you, you can't name any private unions that allow that many holidays. The unions would love it, but the businesses won't go for it because it's.
I would say that the
not
unions,
affordable.
there's like 12 of them getting
Yeah.
paid for.
Yeah.
Okay.
But anyway, back on your white topics there, that safety action plan is something that, you know, especially after the fires in California. And, you know, they're saying that was an act of Mother Nature, that was a man-caused
Do you want to move that to
situation. And
February? Because
Yeah.
there's February 24th, March 10th, and March 24th. Well, actually, March 10th won't be a meeting. Jason said he's going to cancel that meeting because we're going to be out in DC that.
On March 10th?
Yeah.
it just needs to be addressed sometime.
So, you want to put that on March 24th then? That one, that item?
Fine with me.
Was that the safety action plan?
Yes.
I'm sorry, did you say March?
Yes. I mean, February, sorry, February 24th.
Yeah, the
Right now
public
it's
works
only one
staff
item.
probably won't be ready to present that information.
We
Oh,
need to get an
okay.
update, but it'll be pretty premature.
Oh, okay.
So it'll be
So-
better towards April.
Can you guys are there any dates on there that you're suggesting? I'm sure you're supposed to be with April, June, right? Is that what you're trying to do with these?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, okay, so since February, March February 24th and March 24th, right now there's like one item and then nothing on March 24th. When is that gonna come up for those to be programmed?
Dylan, can you bring the March back up, please?
It's gonna be this one done, sorry. March 10th potentially cancel. We do have the next generation public transportation scheduled for that day in Legistar, so that might have to get
Yeah.
March 24th, which is a 30-minute presentation, but
And then I know from that list, the police and fire pension presentation was supposed to be scheduled for March. Doesn't look like staff got that entered yet, but it was originally anticipated it would be in March.
this one.
Yes.
The natural medicine, is that something that has to wait? Do you need more information or get with the state to program?
So I should say, Dylan did reach out to CDPHE and has not heard back from that. I did talk to Councilwoman Chacon last week following council meeting, and she and I and Dylan need to have a conversation to understand exactly what she was envisioning for the purposes of that study session. It is possible that CDPHE may not have anyone available to come for a study session, in which case, you know, council may need to pivot a little bit and get the information in a different way.
Yeah.
But that's TBD.
All right. We could put that behind that natural medicine.
Where you want natural medicine?
Oh, just waiting for a date
Okay.
to be determined.
Yes. Yeah, I reached out to them on Thursday of last week, so I'm still waiting to hear back, and I've got a reminder to follow up this Thursday.
Good. That safety action plan, can that be the same night with police and pension?
Can you do an update end of March?
Yeah, give you an update.
Do you want that Sursa on April 28th then?
It's up for discussion with council, right? I mean, again, as your legal counsel, my recommendation to protect the city is that we do this every year. It makes a lot of sense to do it at the beginning of the year. But, you know, I recognize that you have a number of other things that you're juggling, so I wouldn't let it linger, particularly given the fact that we have the ethics code update in January.
Right.
it makes a lot of sense to have those two things somewhat piggybacked off of each other.
So would that be February 24th?
I mean, I think you could do the CIRSA training in April. It gives you plenty of time. You know, you would be able to digest what we're proposing and the action items that we need or decision points we need from council on an ethics code. I'd say April's perfectly fine.
Council okay with that?
Yeah.
April 28th?
In terms of the quarterly budget update, that is another item that we had heard that you all would like more detailed information more often. We do provide some of that financial data as part of the CM weekly review. We provide a monthly recap of where we're at. Just want to remind you that there are several of our revenue, sales and use tax being the largest. That is a delay because of when it's reported. So for
Sure.
example, March revenue is reported not until April 20th. So finance needs time to process that to give you a true quarterly report. And we thought we heard quarterly, but that is certainly your decision. If you don't want it quarterly, if you want it 2 times a year, whatever your preference is, finance is prepared to provide that information.
I'd ask for quarterly, and maybe we can go with the second and start out the second and third.
Yeah, I mean, we could do, looks like May 12th, there might be a slot, so we could provide the first quarterly update then, and then throughout the year, try to get on a little bit more regular and just go ahead and get those scheduled in the system if that date
Sure.
is agreeable for you.
Because that would help with our budget year
Yeah.
end, going to the budget.
Yeah, there certainly is a lot more opportunity to touch base regularly on the financial information as we, gear up and get into the budget process, but finance is prepared. They're working on a mock-up of that for me to take a look at. But I'm happy to let them know that that's the date you picked for the first update, if that's agreeable to you.
We okay with that?
And then the only other one is we swap peeraging back in.
We did.
Yes, on April 20th. Yeah, it's just not showing up in the condition format. Only other one would be natural medicine. And again, that's kind of a TBD. I can shoot for June if that works for council, and inviting the state in.
Yeah, might as well plug it in there.
That way we at least have the time reserved.
Maybe you can make it have it come sooner.
Yeah. Yeah,
Usually we'll be on there.
it'll probably largely be dependent on the state staff's availability, to come in. And I think that takes care of all the ones that we had predetermined, Cheryl. So that does leave a little bit of time on June 9th as of now, and then June 23rd as of now.
We know that there are items that will come up, so we may have to make some modifications as we work through each week and other things that come up. But we will go with this for now and notify our teams of the dates that were selected so they can be working on information. We appreciate your help in getting those slotted, and we'll, be back with you later about the, following 3 months. So it's amazing how fast time goes. Yeah.
Appreciate that. Councilmember Dukes.
Just going back to the unhoused community, and when we have the discussion around the parks and curfew, a lot of that conversation will take place. I was fortunate to meet with the park ranger supervisor, Rusty, over at Veterans Memorial, and he's been leading, as Jim knows and Cheryl knows, there's a task force that's meeting every Thursday that kind of talks about different ideas and things that are happening pertaining to park curfew, but it all blends together in terms of how do we have a human first approach to helping the unhoused, and how to make sure the parks are being used for everyone, right? And so I think a lot of discussion around obviously it goes into when we first put the motion together around the safety issue of these negative degrees, and thinking about in the summer when there's going to be more youth and things happening, and like the balance of safety. And so all that to say, I think that discussion with the park curfew is a great opportunity to have a bigger conversation about approaching and supporting our unhoused community and our current residents so we can utilize parks, but also find shelters and things in place. So but the big base is you guys meet, it would be great to share. You guys meet on Thursday. It's a cross-departmental discussion that has, I mean, Rusty had a lot of research he already has done with like, Austin, Texas and other places around. You want to share a little bit about that so we're all on the same page that it's a big discussion.
We've got that included in the presentation.
Okay, okay. So all that, Councilman Douglas, that when you said that, it made me think about all this stuff that's happening behind the scenes, and fortunate enough, this is going to be a discussion early in the year where a lot of this conversation will be able to be covered.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So you're saying that there's a task force that exists that's meeting every Thursday. Who's on the task force?
It's internal, sorry.
Yeah, it's an internal, it's a city staff group. It's a cohort of folks. I'm involved.
Right, we put it together. I lead it.
Wellness is involved.
Lee comes, Jason comes, and then rangers, other park staff, Sarah Montesire, Public Works. We've got almost
How'd
representatives
you
from
know about
everybody.
it?
Well, when we did the motion, I went down and actually visited some of the in-house community and I met with Rusty over at the park. And so it was just something I did on outreach so I could get a better understanding. And that's when I found out like there's a lot of behind the scenes conversation that's going to be brought to light when we have this discussion. And I think the other benefit of that, having them share, is that they know a lot of the community already, the in-house community. And so when we think about putting in changes or ordinances, they'll be able to communicate. He'll share like how they already know some of the key challenges because they meet with them daily. They know them by name. They're like, they know some of the challenges, and then there's some change. So it'll be a great discussion. Long story short, it'll be a great discussion.
It will be,
Yeah.
because we've got to do that intersection of our house community
Yep.
with.
Yeah, and that was one of the key aha moments for me when I was meeting with them out there, is that, you know, and even while I was there was like a mother with 3 children, and you had the unhoused, and then it was like, at the end of the day, they're both right about how do you use this space in a way for everybody. And so some of the things that we talked about, or they've discussed around like moving certain benches or different ordinances or that, you know, benches, like park benches, it's like, is that the best for everybody or not? And what's the best approach so everyone can use the park in a safe manner?
Councilmember Jeter?
Well, while we're talking about the homeless, I don't know if this committee knows that the church has a medical facility. Did you guys know about that? Well, they actually have where they take blood pressure and temperatures and they pass out Band-Aids and toothbrushes and so they I don't know if they're just EMTs or what kind of.
We have a medical group that actually works with our community well-being team to go to different places and do that
Okay,
on a regular basis.
so this might be something that the word needs to get out to some of these homeless people about that free meal every 2 weeks.
Is this a 180 church?
Huh?
It's only
I
one.
thought it was every 2 weeks.
It's the second Friday of the month.
Second.
Is this the 180 church?
Yes.
We actually are, as part of our ARPA money, are helping them build up that program as part of the food equity. To do it more often. And we'll be working with Jeremy, that is one of our homeless navigators, is a part of 180 Church. So that word is out there.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure you was aware.
No, we're aware of that, and we're actively getting the word out and delivering people for the services there.
And one of the good things that I found out as well is that Pastor Mark Hardiger from Landing Place, which is in the north of Chambers, is his mentor. And so they work in close partnership. So, you know, that might be another segue into how we can alleviate some of the pressure on the people who are living in the South to figure something out. Yeah, because we can't be putting all the burdens on labor in the South. We can't.
And I talked to Jason about this, and maybe we could see if OnMed could come here for a presentation, but this is, hey, it's a unit, or you could, at the rec center, certain places. It actually scans. Was at right now it's at, something similar at the, with CES technical to trade show with, the computers, I can't think of the name. It's in Vegas right now, but technology, but the future, and it actually shows body scan. And this system actually works that way. So I'm trying to see if they can come here and actually do a demonstration because it's something that's happening now. And this is from our Tampa trip.
Is that for the unhoused?
For the unhoused, yeah. Anybody else having?
Just real quick, I resent the memo that I had prepared for all of you in December, so that for your convenience, it's in the box at the top, and that will help navigate the conversation.
All right, you gotcha.
Yeah.
Mayor Pro Tem Milton?
On the topic of study sessions, November 14th, we received a document from staff about development costs in the city, and it listed other cities. And we didn't have a discussion about it. It was just a document that came to our email. Was that something that we should be discussing? Should we be learning about doing cost comparisons with other communities to know whether it's more expensive to build in Commerce City than it is elsewhere and so forth?
I think we are working on an update to right size and to get some of our fees that after we've had a year with the new fees in place, want to bring to you. And I think bringing that with it is kind of the plan that we want to go ahead and get that information to you. And actually that information was compiled probably as a misunderstanding of the request in July for the development cost.
Which the business
Yes, ma'am.
taxes and fees.
And so we did that, but now, and we've shared that with the developers. So when we have the meeting with them, I know they'll be wanting to talk about that. But I think our intent was to wrap that discussion with a review of the fees that you adopted a year and a half ago so that we missed some, we've got some that we said, oh, that may discourage things we want to see and we want to bring and then have that general discussion.
Okay, so don't lose the document or you'll resend it.
But we'll resend it by then, yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you.
Councilmember Cheater?
Pigtail onto that, something I want to know about that is Commerce City paying out at the same level as the other cities when it comes to helping build bridges and sidewalks and roads and helping with infrastructure? Or are we on a different ratio? Because I know when we first started our development program, it was the North's gonna pay all their own way, period, without any of this else help. But now that they've been doing it for 20 years, they've been paying taxes. It seems to me like the city needs to start doing more.
That's a completely different discussion.
Is it? Okay.
Yes, sir, but it's not a bad one to have, but it's, we provided y'all the study that we had done on the cost benefit of development, how much it pays in taxes versus how much it costs to serve it. But it didn't really get into the capital improvements because of the very policy decisions that have been made. But if that's something the council would like down the road after we have that other one, that's a lot of study and a lot. So we would want to make sure that was a commitment from the council and we were able to tell you what it would take in the way of cost to put that together. Because doing that assessment of our cost and then the comparison would be a big effort. Not that we can't do it, but with everything else going on, we would want to make sure that everybody was on board. We were doing the same lift that y'all anticipated.
Well, I could be wrong, but I'm thinking that might be one of the reasons why the Metro District taxes are so damn high out there is because Commerce City's not putting in at the same level as Thornton and Westminster and into this.
Yeah, but we could surely do that
That's just a
assessment,
thought.
but we need some time to think about what would be involved in putting it together. So we come back to you and say, if you want us to do this, here's what it costs, here's what it'll take, and here's what we might not be able to get done at the same time. but we would be happy for that.
That's what the impact fees.
Well, the impact fees are for part of that, yes, sir.
Right, as we expand, your road impact fees, drainage impact fees. And then if the study came out that every home that's built right now under Metro District, the city actually is responsible for more because we're only receiving, that's, we can go over $100 per household.
Yeah, I know what it cost, what we get from our development to put into it. I just don't know what other communities are doing without us having to do a lot of research
That's what I
and
wanted.
where the dollar's coming from that are doing it. You know, do they have the impact fees? We know they're not the same level as ours, but what are they generating? And I mean, it's a lot of background that would have to go into it, but it's not bad information to have moving
Yeah.
forward. But I think as we have this other conversation, it'll help see what else we need to look at.
So
Councilmember Dukes.
do you need a motion for that at the council meeting to bring that up?
I mean, again, I think if when we have the other conversation we were just talking about, if that's something that comes out of it, then council could direct staff at that time to do it. But I'd like for us to be able to give you some background to say, this will take us this long to do, and it's gonna take this amount of effort, because we hadn't anticipated doing that. And it's a big lift to get that all together.
Councilmember Dukes.
To piggyback on that, I'm curious, and if this is even possible, think about the CDOT roads in the south and like what it would look like if we were to begin to take over some of that investment. And what does that cost? Or is that something that, I guess we got a presentation a couple of months ago that the roads won't get transitioned to us until, they're in good shape, but they don't have money to redo the roads. And so is there a world where we can look at the costs if we start taking over some of the roads early on? And would that be part of that type of study?
Yeah, that's part of the conversation we had earlier about coming back to you with a comprehensive approach with CDOT.
Okay.
Not just asking them to do more maintenance because they're not able to do that, but look at possibly devolution for some of the roads, some combination of efforts. And we are working on bringing that back to you.
Is that on our study session
It's
already?
not on the calendar yet, no. It's delayed because it's contingent on getting meetings with CDOT. So we have to get all that worked out first. And I don't want to commit to a date until we've got some of that solidified.
Okay.
Yeah, but we're working on that now.
I know you don't want to commit to, I hear you don't want to commit to a date, and I respect that. And is there a world where we have an update? Like, look at the dates. If we have the calendar up, we have, end of June that's available? Is that far out enough where you can here's an update, so it stays on the forefront because our roads are.
I think that's reasonable. I think it's reasonable. Sure, we can do that. So, again, we may not have everything because it depends on how much time CDOT can devote to these conversations. But we can certainly give you an update.
Is that okay?
Yeah. On the 270 meeting, that was brought up. And CDOT put them on the hot seat and they said, because they're doing all these improvements, before they go out and do any of those improvements, they have to make sure that roads that are lead up to 270 are taken care of.
CDOT does.
CDOT does,
Okay.
yes.
Well, do you think it'd be okay to put in, I asked the whole group, to put that as a study session item in June?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think they actually could come before city council and report out at a regular meeting.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't have to worry about a study session.
It may not be complete, but we can certainly give you an update.
Yeah, that'd be great.
You know, council members? Councilmember Ford, did you have anything? All right. Thank you. We'll go to acting city manager, Carlton Dapper.
Just a couple of
Please
quick
report.
things. Just a reminder that city offices are closed on Monday in observance of the holiday. Dylan was able to provide an update to us today that the Marijuana Licensing Authority has granted Social Cannabis their conditional approval. They'll of course have to meet all of the requirements set forth in that order before we'll be able to issue their local license, but wanted to be able to share that update with you.
Sure. On that, how long does it take to remove from conditional to actual approval? What's the length and time?
It depends, since there's nothing there, I would anticipate it's probably gonna take them to the end of the year to get everything constructed, order all the equipment and fixtures that they're gonna need before they're able to open, because they also have to install all their security equipment and get inspected by PD and code enforcement before we'll grant that, so.
Okay, thank you, Sarge.
That's okay. Last Monday, a request was made for a letter to be prepared to recognize or appreciate Casey Becker and her team, and that letter is ready and staff is prepared to send that unless council would like to see that before it goes out. If not, we're prepared to get that sent tomorrow.
Yeah, they're doing it right now.
Okay, we'll send if that,
Can we see it though as well? I mean, I don't care what you send it.
of course, yep, we'll do both tomorrow.
Will they have our signatures on there?
Yeah, it does reference every council member's name at the bottom of the letter. Jim's reviewed it, I've reviewed it, so we can send that trip to them and get it out to you guys as well tomorrow. And Jim alluded to this, but we are planning on opening the warming shelter on Saturday, keeping that open according to our policy through Tuesday morning, likely on Thursday or Friday. Social media updates would go out. I will certainly continue to provide updates unless Jason has returned by that time, but just wanted to let you know that we are anticipating those lower temperatures, and that is already in the works, and staff is working with our contractor to do that. Mayor, you referenced the HBA survey that went out about dates. So based on the feedback that was collected from that survey, we're anticipating that to be scheduled for February 6th. It would be 5:30 to 8 o'clock that evening, and staff is working on coordinating that, getting that noticed, et cetera. But we wanted to share with you that that's the date that they're looking at. And that is all the updates that I have at this time.
All right, thank you. City Attorney Zarzak.
I just have a couple of items. One of them actually came up this evening, I believe from Councilmember Chacon, wanting an update on the EPA order as it relates to the Title V Clean Air Act permit. I am preparing a synopsis of that order for this body. It's going to be very basic. You all have a copy of the order. I will say, even as an environmental attorney, Clean Air Act is a very difficult regulation to understand and to read. So I will try to keep it as brief as possible, but basically in a nutshell, EPA has gone back to CDPHE and said, you need to either rethink your decision on approval of this permit, or you need to provide an additional explanation as to why you're supportive of it. That's a very dumbed down synopsis, but I'll provide that summary to you in an email. The other item that I wanted to bring to your attention, my understanding is historically, when council has traveled to DC, or at least in recent past, the city attorney has not participated. I am happy and willing to participate to travel with council and with the city manager to DC. I'm planning on doing so, but I wanted to at least bring that to your attention before scheduling,
Yeah, I think that'd be great.
flights, et cetera.
What do you guys think?
I'm good with
No, it's okay.
So if you, I didn't want you to be surprised when we're in DC and I'm standing.
Oh,
If you bring your kids.
No. That will not happen. So I will make that happen. I do think it would be helpful to understand, what our priorities are and talking to delegation relationships. So that is all I have.
Hey, Mayor Pro Tem, did you have something to add?
I did. I just want to say how deeply disappointed I am that the developer meeting is on February 6th. I was truly looking forward to participating in that, but I am literally having surgery that day. So it's not even an option to attend. So of all the dates, that was the only one I wasn't available for.
Any other dates?
If you could just let the developers know that I extend my apologies, but I can't do anything about changing.
Okay, sorry to hear that. Councilmember Ford?
Yeah, reports. I did attend the Boots and Business. It was, I really think it's something that the city needs to partake in annually. I did get to sit at one of the Philip Morris tables. The folks that were at my table were like Catherine Works, Ray Gonzalez, Denver Chamber of Commerce, and really good conversations. But this is the first time that I've been able to attend the after party, which was even more time to be able to visit and talk to other partners about what they're doing, what we're doing, perhaps getting new ideas. So I would recommend to the council to try to get that back on track where you have the opportunity on an annual basis to go. It's one of those one time of the year where you're actually with all of our neighboring entities. Adams County has a table. Wellington Webb was at the table next to me. I hated that Commerce City didn't have a table, and I think it would be great. I really felt good about the conversations and collaborations that I got to engage in this year. The only other thing I had is, I know we only have 3 employees. Our number 1 is city manager. And I got to visit with his wife a little bit today. And I want to make sure that he has the time to get to where he needs to be necessary to come back full strength. And because we are collectively 9, his boss, I would like to recommend and request that a fruit basket or something be sent over to his house, letting him know how much we care about his health and well-being, and that we want him to take the time necessary to get back to 100%.
Thank you. That's Member Ford. Appreciate that. Anybody else report? Councilmember Dukes?
I like the idea of the basket.
We okay with that?
Yeah, our incredible edibles.
And whatever, just something that
Absolutely.
says we care.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Seeing no objections.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, anybody else reports?
Our reports.
Councilmember Chacon?
I wanted to agree with that, and also I will be missing, unfortunately, the developer meeting because February 6th through the 8th, I will be at the Houses Relative Conference in LA, which I have no idea what that's gonna look like right now with fires, but it's still a go supposedly.
The problem with the dates that were sent out to us, that it did not ask when you weren't available. It just asked what your preference was.
True.
That's what the issue is here. And considering the fact that Ward 4 has most of the new development, it just doesn't make sense for, and Ward 3 for that matter, it just makes sense for us not to be available on that night. Of all the people that the developers probably want to know what in the heck is going through our minds and coming out of our mouths, is probably Councilmember Chacon and myself.
Is there any way we could put some new dates out there?
We can, it's not set in stone yet. We can, if that doesn't work, we can circle back and.
Yeah, I would at least give an opportunity for the other 2 council members to
I'll
participate.
speak with our folks about seeing if there's a way to do the Survey Monkey, but also have something that says of these dates, which ones can you absolutely not attend?
Yeah.
And then we can
Right.
try to figure it out. And if y'all can all try to answer, that would be good.
Yeah, if you could do that, and if you have capability to do that next couple of days, I think that we freshen our minds.
We'll get something out tomorrow.
Thank you. Councilmember Ford?
I don't have anything
Oh, I
else.
thought you.
No.
Mayor Pro Tem, did you have anything else for a report?
I did not.
Okay. Councilmember Evans?
So, thank you. I wanted to badly attend the community well-being open house on last Tuesday. I guess it was a real success, but because of the snow, I didn't have transportation and wasn't able to make that, but I heard it was a real success. Went to the senior commission meeting on Thursday and then attended the 180 church and community well-being lunch for the homeless on Friday. And I will be setting out to attend those on a monthly basis because I thought it was very beneficial to have a presence there. Have it.
Councilmember Dukes, do you have any?
I don't know.
Okay. Last Tuesday, I had an opportunity to talk with, someone who is representing Legato and Nexus. That was last Tuesday. And, let's see. I had it written down and I don't know what I have in my notes. Friday, also went with Councilmember Teeter and Douglas over to the wedding church. And we had a really good discussion with some of the folks who were actually taking advantage of those second Friday of the month meals. And just to hear from them, how they love living in Commerce City. And they lost their home. They don't want to be displaced. And so they're struggling out there. But they actually live on the streets here in Commerce City. And they were telling us some of the issues that go on in the parks and actually naming people and they see trash trash around the roads or whatever from people who are just not being respectful of the park. There's a guy that comes over there and he picks trash up at Veterans Park. Thank you. Or at Monaco Park. And they really want our city to be vibrant and welcome. And so they frown on that when they see people in their community do that. And so if there's any way the city can help out with that, which they have because they've seen our public works out there actually picking trash, dumping it and all that. And also had a conversation with the homeowner on 62nd and Holly where the pole RTD sign is. And I did inquire about the city went on a basis to make sure the trash is empty and all that. There was a pole that was knocked down that was replaced as well. And then let's see. Now I know Maria Zubia invited us to participate Saturday and Sunday. Anybody, did any council members had an opportunity to go? I already had a conflict, so I wasn't able to go, but I thought maybe anybody else showed up or not. So sorry, I did get to participate myself. Tonight, earlier from 4 to 6, it was affordable housing briefing with Club SIPCO. They're working with the Metro Mayor's Caucus. Peter LaFar with Makers Housing was one of the presenters, and there was a panelist of Eileen Castellano from City and County of Broomfield, who's the mayor of City of Broomfield. Pat Hamill, former Oakwood Homes and Affordable Housing advocate, and then Mayor Jan Coleman Thornton was there on the panel, and Cheddar Latham. He's still with Shea Homes, and Heidi Williams. She was the moderator for the civic results in Metro Mayor's Caucus. So that was interesting hearing the conversation that San Diego, what they're doing is they're doing a 9-day approval for middle housing. And I know Polis had made a statement that he would like to see the state go to a 9-day process, is what spelling counties. And with the whole process, especially with the legislation that's coming before us, it's going to be challenging. But if we could, especially with the land development code, it would be nice if we did have certain language in there so there'd be less traffic that comes before us. So as a city and as a city council, we can work on a policy where we're comfortable with a lot of these products coming in as far as building. That would help with the process as well. And that way, of course they are coming with us because they want to change zoning. But besides that, if they're already approved on their projects, we should be some sort of incentive for them to start building instead of not building. And our policies would reflect that. Because right now, we got, like I said, $2 billion for the projects that have started. So if that could be something we could work on.
One question, are you talking residential, more residential or commercial?
Well, what's already been approved, residential, commercial, retail, just put parameters around that, that way. That's why I was suggesting a map, so when we meet with the developers, we would know what they have, and then we could work on policy. Because our thing, we have to make sure our citizens know we are not responsible for their action on their property. We can only incentivize them to actually take action. And then to look at our economic development, with the missing pieces we have, that's the leakage. And really, fill that gap, because that's why we have our citizens leaving this city, because we don't have those products. We can build all the housing we want, but we're missing out on those dollars, as Councilmember Teeter said. That money reciprocates, comes back, so we would have money to go to projects. Because right now on our revenue bonds, altogether, we got $298 million combined. That's a lot of money.
Was there flyers or handouts that you can send, or they can send to us and learn more about?
Oh, they're just my notes.
Those are just, okay.
But I can summarize that and put that out.
Yeah.
And I can also ask them for slides as well.
Yeah, that'll be great.
Because it's, this is information to share. It's nothing that I can hold on to, because it doesn't help me out. It helps everybody if you have that.
It sounds like it was a great
Tools or
meeting,
toolbox.
like to talk about.
Yeah, it was good. So, there's a CML policy this Friday, myself and Mayor Pro Tem. I know I signed up for it. And then next week is Metro Mayor's Caucus to go to the rodeo and to talk to other mayors. And then there's a mayor summit on Thursday all day with the CML. And I will be attending that.
With some of the mayor summits, will part of the conversation be some of that housing middle?
Oh, that's what it was.
That's all,
Yeah.
it's okay.
It was all about building of the middle homes, not for rent, but for sale. They wanted people to be able to purchase homes again. And right now, it used to be a third of construction, used to be that first home condos or townhomes, and now they have 0. So for every one apartment right now, every 4 apartments are building, they're building 1 condo unit. So it used to be 30,000 permits, and now we're not even close to that. That's what Douglas.
Yes, it sounds like it's exactly what we're being offered by the developers, and is it Anderson?
Anderson Ranch, yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm, yeah.
so we're ahead of the game.
Right. So, well, it's just, I want you guys to know that, and I will extend that information, because I think that'd be a really good thing for their, for development. People really want to be pioneers and move out here and actually buy a home. And there's nothing wrong with renting, but people get pushed out of rent because of the price going up. So, anybody else have anything else? That's for Teeter.
I attended that community wellbeing house Tuesday. It's amazing, all the programs and stuff they have, given with grant and get people jobs, stuff that,
Yeah.
It's, there's a lot of good programs out there. People just take advantage of them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I was a little disappointed with the turnout on that breakfast they had. There wasn't that many homeless there. I was expecting to have a bunch.
You mean the lunch?
The lunch, yeah,
So they're just getting that started.
yeah.
Okay, so that they're renovating that basement to accommodate for homeless.
But after seeing that setup, I know there's a lot of people looking for places to have meetings and stuff. And I notice there's more churches than that are sitting around our community that are vacant.
Yeah.
I wonder if we shouldn't be looking into possibly buying one of those to have a place to have some of our meetings and I think, we're looking for places all the time. Or we have people asking, is there any place we can have a meeting? And we have no place.
Oh, we have the small business center.
Yeah.
That's a place to have meetings.
But I mean, these churches are just a little bit bigger. You could have a little bit bigger meetings and sometimes you could probably have one or two going on at the same time. And they're sitting there vacant. I don't know why, but they've been vacant for quite some time.
Yeah.
So something to think about since we don't have nothing else to think about.
Market.
Anything else?
Oh,
Councilman Davis?
I participated in a webinar from National League of Cities on the grant boot camps that are coming up. And so they said unlimited number of people from any city can attend those. And there's 5 different boot camps. So one's on energy, one's on safe streets, one is on the railroads. One is on grant management, and then there's a 5th one I can't recall. But I think they would be a really great learning opportunity for anyone who wants to make that commitment. And so I want everybody to know about that and that you are welcome to participate. And I think it'd be an exceptional educational opportunity that could really advance our city.
Right. Yes, I'm sorry. I also attended this afternoon. It's grant implementation, compliance and management, developing clean energy projects, clean water, revolving fund, safe streets and roads for all, combined railroad crossing elimination, and consolidating rail infrastructure and safety improvements. That's the Chrissy grant. So
the session was gonna be recorded, so we could share that with anybody who wants it. So
And the
put
next-
that out there for everybody.
the next training is gonna be the week of January 27th.
And you had shared that with Jason and he did distribute it to a
Mhm, yes, he
variety of
did.
staff members,
Yep.
so, yeah.
Yeah, and thank you for that.
I'll send out the QR code with the information to everybody if you'd like it. Or I'll send it to Cheryl and you both. That's all right, that's it.
We're done.
We're adjourned.
Oh, thank you.
8.1.
Take care, loves. Have a good night.
Night.